perfect. I was just like, yeah, I was just wondering about I'll be able to hear you. Yeah, beautiful. Yeah, I'm all yours.
Big shout out to everyone watching the Jrod on Point. Thank you for being here. Very so much appreciate it. Thank you for being here. Big shout out Jrod on Point. Thank you for being here. I appreciate it. Today is a big day for the true crime community. For those that follow the Idaho 4 Bryan Kohberger case, it's been a long journey. It's been a long journey. Big shout out to Amy Conway. Thank you so much for being here. I appreciate it. Amy Conway, I beg to please make sure to hit the like button, like, subscribe, share the content. Put a little bit of DNA in that like button. We promise to not utilize IGG techniques against you in the court of law. Big shout out to Amy Conway. Thank you so much for being here. Big shout out to Joanne from Utah. Thank you so much. Very so much. Appreciate it. Yeah, the next past 3 years has been crazy. Amy Conway said mixed emotions for sure. Mixed emotions for sure. Good morning, good morning. Good evening for some. I was telling Amy Conway that this case, he was, man, it was making me sick to my stomach already. Hi, baby. You know, this case, he was already making me sick to my stomach, though, seeing so many inconsistencies, so many holes in this case. If by any chance Bryan Kohberger pleads guilty, in my opinion, the man, he was pressure to it. If he does, he's not just going against the prosecution, he's going against the court, against the judge. The judge already had his mind predetermined. Judge Hitler already had his mind predetermined. And we could see it in a way. He was talking to the defense team. It was a big difference between, in a way, his presentation for the defense team, it was way different than the treatment that he was giving to the prosecution. Especially when he was talking about, like, we have a DNA match. How can you argue against a DNA match? The problem with that is that to get to that DNA match, the steps taken to that. Every single step of the investigation is very important. Every single step of an investigation is very important. And it seems like it was quite a few steps that were missing. It was quite a few steps that were not taken for what it seems like. Good morning, Joanne. Good morning. Good morning. Big shout out to Joanne. Thank you for being here. Very appreciate it. Joanne from Utah. Joanne said, wow, all the outrage now from the G family. What was that energy being the last 3 years towards the state and the DNA? Facts. Big shout out to Joanne. And it seems like the state talked to the Chapins, and the Chapins, our sources information, our sources said that the Chapins were agreed. Our sources tell us that the Chapins agree with the state. The Chapins agree with the deal. The Goncalves, if you ask me, in my opinion, is fake energy. If you ask me, in my opinion, is fake energy against the state, because they know they already got the job well done, and now they want to look like, oh, I don't have nothing to do. Oh, I don't have nothing to do with this. At the end of the day, that's their child, that's their sons and daughters. If they think they getting justice this way, you know, if they happy with the results, at the end of the day, it's their problem. We only content creators, cyber sleuth, we a team that has provided the most accurate information in the Idaho Fall Bryan Kohberger case. If us, while doing our work, if us as performing our duties, we are careers in content creation, while us doing our job, we get criticized. It's okay. It comes with the territory. That's what it comes with being a content creator. And it's a deal that I totally accept with it. Again, I stand on everything that he was spoken here. I stand on every single word. If Bryan Kohberger, even though the information that we had is very accurate, even though that we see the holes in this case, we also see the pressure from the public opinion, the pressure from the court and the Judge Hippler. If he pleads guilty, they got him trapped. They got him trapped. Starting to believe Speak Van Holding when he was talking to me about Ann Taylor, and that Ann Taylor was about to be Kohberger's downfall. For what it seems like, Speak Van Holding was right. Talking about my brother. Talking about my brother, Speak Van Holding. Big shout out to the guy. Let's see what the man is doing. Speak Van Holding got to be celebrating right now.
Not able to receive calls at this time. The person you have dialed is not able to receive calls at this time.
Big shout out to Speak Van Holding. Not available right now. Can't wait to have a great conversation with my brother from another mother, Speakman Holding. It'd be a great conversation. And we kind of say Article say stay meet with available family. That's weird. 4 families here, not 1, not 2, total of 4. Well, you know, like Kohberger's family also count though. So it's in total 5 families. 5 families involved, far as both sides of the fence. Big shout out to Amy Conway. Thank you so much for being here. I appreciate it. Amy's been a long ride, Amy. It's been a long ride, and it seems like it's gonna be over today. It seems the Idaho 4 Bryan Kohberger trip is almost to its end. Let's see what we got here today. It's gonna be a big day, big day, big day. Yeah, it's been a long journey. It's crazy to say that I lost my very first channel where I started my true crime career, talking about the Kiely Rodni case, and the Kiely Rodni case content got affected by the Idaho 4. The Kiely Rodni content got affected by the Idaho 4. Because we suffer a termination, an uncalled for termination of the Jrod On Point channel, the very first Jrod On Point channel, with all the Kiely Rodni content and my very beginnings, my very first takes in the Idaho 4. Like, if you ask me at this moment, if Bryan Kohberger accept this plea, I like to say that losing my very first channel for the Idaho 4 Bryan Kohberger case, if Bryan Kohberger end up pleading guilty, I like to say at this day today that me losing my Jrod On Point first channel due to the Idaho 4 and Bryan Kohberger hate, I would like to say that I did waste my time. Like, if you ask me, it was not worth it losing my very first channel just to make a point of being 100% right on everything that I was talking about, even when I was talking about that one individual that we was talking about. In my opinion, losing the Jrod On Point main channel, now that Bryan Kohberger, let's say he plead guilty, I would like to say that it was not worth it losing a great channel in algorithm, getting thousands of views, thousands of engagement, history in the making in the true crime community. I would like to say that if Bryan Kohberger pleads guilty today, losing my channel for the Idaho for Bryan Kohberger case was a loss, and it was a waste of time. Because yes, I prove a point that I was right all along, but at the same time, I repeat, if Bryan Kohberger take a guilty plea, I would like to say that losing my channel and the time that I spent not just investigating but putting all eggs in one basket for this case, ignoring all the content that would be very helpful for not just me but for my channel. If he pleads guilty, he deserves everything that he got coming to him. And it's like Twizzle was saying, like, Jrod, if he pleads guilty, he did it. Is no reason for him to do so. If he pleads guilty, I totally agree with Twizzle when he said that. I totally agree with Twizzle. If Bryan Kohberger end up accepting this plea of guilt, he definitely deserves everything that is coming his way. And I can do shit for him. And as we always said it long time ago from the very beginning, we're not pro burgers. We really could care less what happened to Kohberger. We always said that he was only in the way to justice. He was just in the way. He was just in the road. He needed to have a resolution, figure the thing out. If you're going to dismiss. You're going to go to trial. But do what you need to do. So hopefully we get to justice for the victims. We didn't have a dog in this fight. There's a lot of things about the Kohberger case that it seems very fishy. In my opinion, it seems very connected to the Idaho 4. It seems like, for what it seems like, that they got away with that. For what it seems like, they got away with the Idaho 4. And for what it seems like, the message, if Bryan Kohberger take the plea, the message that is going to be sent to the Greek community in Moscow, Idaho, and the whole Greek community everywhere around the world, is going to give the wrong message. If you ask me, their own members are going to be afraid of what's coming, because that's going to open the gates of hell. That's going to give the vandals, the authority to kill at will, because now the state has developed the latest techniques to get away with murder. Those techniques are perfected by scholars of con law. The same people in universities teaching con law is the same people developing legal loopholes, techniques, case law, whatever hasn't been explored That's the same loophole that we're gonna use and utilize to get away with murder. Because we the smart people, with the people in power. And here we go.
Presiding judge.
Let me see that. All right, this is CR 0124316665. Defendant is present in custody with counsel, Ms. Thompson, Ms. Jennings, and pardon me, Ms. Taylor, Ms. Massoff, and Ms. Barlow. The state's present with Mr. Thompson, Mr. Horowitz, Ms. Jennings, and Mr. Nye is here as well. Am I miss anybody? I'm sorry.
Ms. Allen is here as well.
Ms.
Your
Allen
Honor.
is here as well. Very well, thank you. All right, we are here today to entertain a change of plea. Before I start, I want to address some issues of concern and otherwise. First, I appreciate everybody in attendance today being on their best behavior. Please, no outbursts or demonstrations. Any such conduct will result in immediate removal and may result in an inability to attend further court proceedings in this case. I want to point out that there have been calls by some for the public to contact me and my office in an attempt to influence my decision-making in this case. This has been extraordinarily disruptive for court staff and the ability for them to get work done, not only in this case, but in other cases where defendants are entitled to have their cases processed, and frankly, as important, if not more so, for victims to have their cases processed in those cases. It's also highly inappropriate. A court is not supposed to, and this court will never, take into account public sentiment in making an opinion regarding its judicial decisions in cases. Court should, and I always will, make decisions based on where the facts and the law lead me, period. I have not read any of the numerous messages nor listened to any of the numerous voicemails that have been sent to me and my staff. Those have all been forwarded to security and, where appropriate, to law enforcement. I ask that you not continue to mount such campaigns or to send me information like this, because again, it is not appropriate and frankly not something I would take into account when deciding a matter in a case like this. I also want people to understand some very basic concepts about the ideas of separation of powers, what the court's duties are, and what the duties and the rights of the executive, or in this case, the prosecuting attorney, is. The executive, the elected prosecutor, is the sole authority in deciding what charges to pursue, including whether, as well as what penalties to ask for, and what penalties to pursue, including the death penalty. This court cannot require the prosecutor to seek the death penalty, nor would it be appropriate for this court to attempt to do that. This court, in considering a plea agreement, if it were to reject this plea agreement, cannot force the state to seek the death penalty. My role and power in considering a plea agreement is extremely limited. My role is to ensure that the defendant's plea is given freely, voluntarily, and intelligently. If those things are met, I can only reject a plea, such as the one in this case, where I'm not being asked to agree to the sentence in advance. If I can only reject it, for example, if the defendant does not meet or admit to all of the elements of the crime. That is, I can ensure what is called a factual basis to the plea. Finally, I want to offer my apologies to all the families, including the victims' families, the families of the defendant, for the short notice for today's hearing, and I'm sure what must have been the hurried efforts to get here. I, like most everyone else, learned of this plea agreement Monday afternoon and had no inkling of it beforehand. Prior to that time, I was under the belief that this case was proceeding to trial, as had been indicated, and my staff and I were busy continuing to work on preparations to have potentially 10,000 citizens of Ada County come to jury duty starting in mid-July, with the questionnaire process in mid-July. It was, once I learned of the defendant's decision to change his plea in this case, it was important that I take the plea as soon as possible because of the extraordinary administrative efforts that were otherwise attendant to the process of this, getting this trial potentially underway on time, and including the significant process of bringing, again, potentially up to 10,000 jurors to come in and fill out juror questionnaires prior to the beginning of the voir dire process. And so it was important that we, if we're going to go down this road, do so expeditiously so that we can avoid those costs and expenses associated with that. Otherwise, if it was not going to result in a plea, or if for some reason the plea were to fall through today, that we could continue diligently towards trial at the time specified. And so that obviously required that we act quickly. And so some folks may have not had the amount of time that we would otherwise allow for them to travel here. And so again, I apologize for that. I want to make people aware that during the hearing, if you are to leave the courtroom for any reason, you will not be readmitted during the hearing. Also, when we finish the hearing this morning, I ask that the public and media wait in their seats until the victims' families and the defendants' families and others are escorted out of the courtroom before you start to leave. Finally, I want to acknowledge the trial court administrator and her staff, the Ada County Sheriff, and the Ada County 4th District Marshal Service for the huge lift that they've accomplished in preparing for and orchestrating this hearing today, as well as to all the security attendant today that you see, and some of whom you, many of whom you don't see, with less than 48 hours notice. And so I appreciate the hard work that they've been doing. Frankly, some of them while they were on some vacation prior to the trial starting and had to call that short. And so I appreciate very much their professionalism and dedication. All right. That said, let's move to the business of today. I understand the state and the defense have reached a plea agreement in this case. For the record, I have a written plea agreement which indicates in sum, the defendant will plead guilty to all 5 counts in the indictment: burglary, felony, and first-degree murder, 4 counts. The state and the defendant stipulate That is that the defense is not free to argue for a lesser sentence at sentencing to the following. The defendant on the burglary charge will be sentenced to 10 years fixed, and that the defendant on counts 2 through 5, the 4 counts of first-degree homicide, on each count would receive a fixed life sentence, all 5 of those counts to run consecutive to one another. Defendant, as part of the plea agreement, waives his right to appeal, as well as his right to appeal the sentence and his right to seek leniency or reconsideration of the sentence under Idaho Criminal Rule 35. This is not a Rule 11 agreement, meaning the court is not bound by the plea agreement and could impose a different lawful sentence at sentencing. The stipulated agreement between the parties is the maximum on each count. So theoretically, the only thing the court could do would be a lesser sentence at sentencing. But the defendant is not free to ask the court to do so under the plea agreement. Are there any other material terms of the plea agreement that the parties would like to make? Obviously, the plea agreement, the written plea agreement will speak for itself and be part of the court record.
Not from the state, Your Honor. Thank you.
No, Your Honor. Thank you.
All right, very well. All right. Ms. Taylor, have you had sufficient time to discuss this case and all of its ramifications with your client?
I have, Your Honor.
Have you discussed fully with him his rights, defenses, and possible consequences to him of the guilty plea?
Yes, Your Honor.
Have you been able to do all the discovery you feel necessary?
Yes, Your Honor.
And have you informed your client of the importance of providing the court truthful and accurate answers in taking this plea today?
I have.
Have you apprised your client of any and all offers and counter offers and answered his questions about those?
Yes,
Do you consent to the entry of the plea today?
I do.
All right, Mr. Kohberger, I need to ask you some questions this afternoon, or I guess it's this morning still. I do this to ensure that you so that I am assured that you understand the nature of the charges to which I understand you're going to plead guilty, as well as the possible consequences to you of your guilty pleas. I want to make sure your plea is given voluntarily, and I want to make sure that you actually committed the crimes to which you're pleading guilty, because I don't want you to plead guilty to a crime you didn't commit. If you attempt to plead guilty today, but for some reason I don't accept your plea, then it is possible that your statements today could be used against you later at trial. Do you understand that?
Yes.
All right, thank you. And now while you're standing, actually, why don't you take the oath from the clerk?
Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you shall give in the matter not being before this court shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes.
All right, and Mr. Kohberger, just to make it easier, you don't need to stand when you speak to me. I appreciate the sign of respect, but for convenience, you can remain seated, all right? Before I start asking you questions today, have you consumed substantive questions? Let me ask you, have you consumed any alcohol, drug, or other intoxicating substance that would impair your ability to understand or exercise reasonable judgment?
No.
You feel like you are thinking clearly today?
Yes.
All right, I want you to understand what the possible penalties are for each of the crimes to which I understand you're going to offer a guilty plea today. They include on count 1, the burglary, a fine of up to $50,000 and a period of incarceration of up to 10 years in the state penitentiary. You may be required to pay restitution to any victims of the crime. Count 2, 3, 4, and 5 for first-degree murder. The consequences include a fine of up to $50,000, a period of incarceration of life imprisonment, which is a requirement of a sentence, that it be a life sentence with a mandatory minimum sentence of at least 10 years on each of those counts. In addition, you would be potentially responsible for a fine of up to $5,000 to each of the victims of your crime to be enforced in the form of a civil judgment to operate as additional punishment. This is in excess of any restitution or fines that the court could order. And again, you may be required to pay restitution to the victims of the crime. You would be required to provide, as to counts 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, a DNA sample and a right thumbprint impression, and potentially pay for analysis of those samples. You would lose any right to possess, purchase, or carry a firearm, the right to serve on jury duty, the right to hold public office, and the right to vote. Do you understand the charges and all those possible consequences?
Yes.
You've heard the plea agreement that I talked about today. Do you agree with that plea agreement?
Yes.
And do you understand the nature of the charges that you've been charged with, that I understand you're going to plead guilty today to?
Yes.
As as I indicated, I'm not bound by the plea agreement, but the plea agreement is for the maximum on each count. Do you understand that I'm not bound by the plea agreement?
Yes.
Has anyone promised you that I would be lenient or easy on you if you pled guilty?
No.
Has anyone threatened you or anyone close to you to get you to plead guilty?
No.
Has anyone other than the state's agreements with respect to the plea agreement, has anyone promised you anything in exchange for your plea agreement?
No.
Has anyone told you to be untruthful in answering my questions today?
No.
Has anyone offered you a reward of any kind other than the plea agreement in order to get you to plead guilty today?
No.
Are you pleading guilty because you are guilty?
Yes.
And counsel, obviously there have been a number of motions filed to suppress evidence in this case. Other than those filed, are there any other motions that you felt were available with respect to Rule 12?
No, Your Honor.
And Mr. Kohberger, you understand that by entering the guilty plea in this case, you would be giving up your right to appeal any decision this court made, as well as your sentence.
Yes.
Have you had enough time to decide whether or not to plead guilty?
Yes.
Are you pleading guilty freely and voluntarily?
Yes.
Given your choices, do you believe it's in your best interest to plead guilty?
Yes.
Have you discussed fully the matter of pleading guilty with your attorney, and are you satisfied with the advice you've received?
Yes.
Has your attorney advised you to your satisfaction about what your rights are, what your defenses may be, and what the possible consequences to you of your guilty plea are?
Yes.
Has your attorney done everything you've asked them to do?
Yes.
Are you satisfied with their representation of you?
Yes.
I have received a written guilty plea advisory questionnaire that is purported to be filled out by you. Did you fill that document out?
Yes.
Did you understand the questions that you answered in this document?
Yes.
And are the answers that are outlined in this document your answers?
Yes.
Are those answers truthful?
Yes.
Did you sign the document?
Yes.
And this document outlines many of the rights that you have in this case. Should you not plead guilty, did you understand those rights?
Yes.
They include a right to a jury trial. Do you understand that?
Yes.
They include a right to the presumption of innocence. Do you understand that?
Yes.
You have the right to require the state to prove your guilt as to each element beyond a reasonable doubt. Do you understand that?
Yes.
They include a right to confront your accusers and cross-examine witnesses presented by the state, including by utilizing the subpoena power of the court to accomplish that. Do you understand that?
Yes.
You understand you would have a privilege against self-incrimination and a right to remain silent meaning you would not be compelled to testify if you did not wish to, had you not pled guilty.
Yes.
You understand you're giving up that privilege and those rights that I've just outlined by pleading guilty.
Yes.
All right, I want you to understand what the state would have had to have proven at trial had you, to the crimes that you're pleading guilty to, had you, if you didn't plead guilty. Let me find the document. Hang on a second here. All right. So as to count one burglary, the state would have to have proven that on or about November 13, 2022 in Latah County, Idaho, you unlawfully entered a residence located at 1122 King Road in Moscow, Idaho, with the intent to commit the felony crime of murder. As to count two, the state would have had to have proven that on or about that same date in Latah County, Idaho, you did willfully, unlawfully, deliberately, with premeditation and malice aforethought, kill and murder Madison Mogen, a human being, by stabbing Madison Mogen, from which she died. As to count three, the state would have had to have proven that on that same date in Latah County, at that same address, you did willfully, unlawfully, deliberately, with premeditation and malice aforethought, kill and murder Kiely Gonzalez, a human being, by stabbing her, from which she died. As to count four, the state would have had to have proven that on or about that same date in Latah County, Idaho, you did willfully, unlawfully, deliberately, with premeditation and malice aforethought, kill and murder Xana Kernodle, a human being, by stabbing her, from which she died. And then as to count five, also murder in the first degree, that on or about November 13th, 2022, in Latah County, Idaho, you did willfully, unlawfully, deliberately, with premeditation and malice aforethought, kill and murder Ethan Chapin, a human being, by stabbing him, from which he died. Do you understand those things the state would have had to have proven?
Yes.
And do you understand that by pleading guilty, the state no longer has to prove those things because you're admitting those things are true?
Yes.
I want to also make for the record, the defendant has provided with the guilty plea advisory form a document entitled Written Factual Basis that purports to have the defendant's signature dated 1 July 2025. Did you sign that document?
Yes.
And did you agree with the written factual basis that is included there?
Yes.
And then let me ask you, did you, on November 13th, 2022, enter the residence at 1122 King Road in Moscow, Idaho, with the intent to commit the felony crime of murder?
Yes.
Did you, on November 13th, 2022, in Latah County, state of Idaho, kill and murder Madison Mogen, a human being?
Yes.
And did you do that willfully, unlawfully, deliberately, and with premeditation and malice aforethought?
Yes.
Did you, on or about that same date in Moscow, Idaho, kill and murder Kiely Gonzalez, a human being?
Yes.
And did you do that willfully, unlawfully, deliberately, and with premeditation and malice aforethought?
Yes.
And did you, on that same date in Moscow, Idaho, kill and murder Xana Kernodle, a human being?
Yes.
And did you do that willfully, unlawfully, deliberately, with premeditation and malice aforethought?
Yes.
And then on or about November 13th, 2022, again in Latah County, Idaho, did you kill and murder Ethan Chapin, a human being?
Yes.
Did you do that willfully, unlawfully, deliberately, with premeditation and malice aforethought?
Yes.
I would ask the state at this time to provide its recitation of its factual basis had this case gone to trial.
Thank you, Your Honor. Your Honor, the organization of the resuscitation is different than what I think the court and the public may be familiar with from the probable cause affidavit and other documents. The state's evidence, as an overview, would show that back in March of 2022, when the defendant was residing in his parents' residence or was residing back in Pennsylvania, his home state, he purchased online a K-bar knife and sheath with an Amazon gift card that he had purchased shortly prior to the purchase of the knife, sheath, and sharpener. Jumping ahead, the end of June of that year, the defendant, Mr. Kohberger, moved from Pennsylvania to Pullman, Washington, which is right across the state line from Moscow, Idaho, for the purpose of pursuing a PhD in criminal justice at Washington State University. The state's evidence would indicate that beginning July 9th of 2022, Mr. Kohberger's phone began connecting to a cell tower that serves the area of the 1122 King Road residence in Moscow, Idaho. Now, I will acknowledge for the court and all present that there are many residences in that area. It's a dense population of mostly college-related occupants. Between July 9th of 2022 and November 7th, the defendant's phone connected to that particular tower during late night, early morning hours, 10 p.m. to 4 a.m. on approximately 23 times. Now, I will acknowledge also, we do not have evidence that the defendant had direct contact with 1122 or with residents of 1122, but we can put his phone in that area on those times. In the interim, on August 22nd of 2022, Lake Tahoe County Sheriff's Deputy Darren Duke conducted a traffic stop in the early morning hour or late evening hours, about 11 p.m. On the west side of Moscow, on the Moscow-Pullman Road. This was a traffic stop of Mr. Kohberger's car, which turned out to be a 2015 white Hyundai Elantra with Pennsylvania plates. During the course of the traffic stop, Deputy Duke was able to obtain Mr. Kohberger's name, Bryan Kohberger, his phone number, and his address, which at that point was an apartment address in Pullman. We then move to the early morning hours of November 13th, 2022. The state's evidence would show that early morning hours on that day, Mr. Kohberger's phone left his Pullman residence, which is an apartment in kind of the central northwest part of Pullman. That phone was then subsequently turned off at approximately 2:54 a.m. and remained off until approximately 4:48 a.m. on Sunday, the 13th of November. The state's evidence would include a trial, video surveillance of a business on the Moscow-Pullman Highway, just across the state line from Moscow. It would show a vehicle matching the description of the defendant's Hyundai Elantra entering Moscow at approximately 3:02 a.m. Compiled surveillance that the investigators put together from businesses and residents then show the defendant's car, the white Elantra, as I've described, circling the 1122 King Road area, that neighborhood, starting around 3:30 or so in the morning. Comes into the immediate area of 1122 King Road, which is actually on a dead end, and then leaves several times. And approximately 4:05 that morning, the defense car had entered that area, was leaving, stopped at the intersection of King and Queen Road, did a U-turn, and the state's evidence would show that the defendant's car came back and parked behind and above the 1122 King Road residence. The state believes that its evidence would then show that the defendant entered the residence of 1122 through the kitchen sliding door on the back side of the residence, which is the side of the residence that would face the area above where the defendant's car was parked. Defendant entered the residence, went to the third floor, and with a knife, killed Madison Mogan and Kiely Gonzalez. The defendant, as he left that room, for whatever reason, ended up leaving, or the sheath for a K-bar knife was left on the bed next to Madison Mogan's body. And I can jump ahead. That sheath was tested by the Idaho State Police Forensic Lab, and single source male DNA was found on the snap of that sheath, as well as blood from both Kiely and Madison and other trace evidence. But it's important to note single source male DNA was on the snap of that sheath. The state's evidence would show that Xana Knodel was still awake at this time. In fact, had taken a DoorDash order not long before this started. Her room was not on the 3rd floor, it was on the 2nd floor on the west side. As the defendant was either coming down the stairs or leaving, he encountered Xana, and he ended up killing her, also with a large knife. Ethan Chapin, Xana's boyfriend, was asleep in their bedroom, in her bedroom, and the defendant killed him as well with a large fixed blade knife. Each victim suffered multiple wounds. I will state for the record that there is no evidence there was any sexual component or sexual assault on any of the victims. I want to make that clear so there's no speculation. There were 2 other roommates in the house, and they were already asleep. During the course of this, one of those roommates awoke, looked out her door not knowing what was going on, and saw the defendant, who was dressed in black with a black balaclava on, holding some sort of container in his hand. And she saw him leave the house through the direction of the kitchen where that sliding door is that I mentioned before. At approximately 4:20 that morning, so this would have been 15 minutes or so later, the defendant's car is seen on a surveillance camera for 1112 King Road, which is immediately next door to the west of 1122, leaving the area at a high rate of speed. And if the court were to see that, or anybody in this courtroom were to see that, you can see the car almost loses control as it makes the corner, heads north, and then turns to go south on Walinta, which is one of the only ways to get out of that part of town. The evidence would show that following that, the defendant in his Elantra drove south of Moscow. We know that he drove on the back roads because there are surveillance cameras on the main highways, Highway 95, that would have picked up the defendant's car if he'd gone that route. And they did not show the defendant's car on that route during the time. So we know that he went through a variety of back roads in very rural, isolated part of Latah County. About 4:48 that morning, defendant's phone comes back on. And the evidence will show that that phone was located south of Moscow, likely at a side road intersection with Highway 95. From there, the defendant's phone activity tracks heading back north towards Pullman, Washington, where the defendant lived. About 5:26, starting approximately 5:26, various surveillance cameras in Pullman, Washington pick up the defendant's vehicle as he enters Pullman from the south and heads north and slightly west towards his apartment, where he arrived at approximately 5:30 in the morning. Later that morning, Sunday, the 13th of November of 2022, Mr. Kohberger's phone returned to the area of King Road. We don't know exactly what he did, but it returned to that area. It's about 9 o'clock in the morning. He was there for about 10 minutes and then returned to his Pullman residence. About 9:30, the state's evidence will show, evidence taken from the defendant's phone, that he took a selfie of himself on his phone in what appears to be the bathroom of his Pullman apartment with a thumbs up. The defendant's phone then went to the Lewiston-Clarkston Valley, approximately 30 miles south of Moscow and Pullman. And the defendant is actually seen with his car at various businesses down there. This area is the confluence of the Clearwater River and the Snake River. Lewiston is Idaho's seaport. Large bodies of moving water down there. In addition to tracing the defendant's activities, as I've just outlined, on the 13th and leading up to the 13th, the state's evidence will show that following Sunday, November 13th of 2022, business records show that the defendant began searching for a K-bar knife and a K-bar knife sheath. as the state believes, to replace the one that was left at the scene of the murders. The evidence also will suggest that there were at least attempts by the defendant to delete or alter his purchase history on Amazon, where all these transactions had occurred. Later that week, the state's evidence would show that Mr. Kohberger went to what we would call DMV, motor vehicle licensing here in Idaho, in Pullman, to change his car registration from Pennsylvania to Washington. That's of note because Pennsylvania cars do not require a front license plate. The vehicles seen on the surveillance cameras of the defendant's car showed it didn't have a front license plate on it. At the time of the traffic stop by Deputy Duke in August, it was Pennsylvania plate, no front license plate. Mr. Kohberger proceeded to finish his semester of studies at Washington State University and returned to Pennsylvania for the holidays. Law enforcement at this point were aware of Mr. Kohberger, had been accessing information about him, were trying to find him. They located him in Pennsylvania, and they conducted what's called a trash pull. During the nighttime hours, agents of the FBI, who assisted immensely with this case, working with the sanitation department back in this neighborhood in Pennsylvania, took trash that had been set out on the street for collection, sent the contents of that from the Pennsylvania residence of the defendant's parents to the Idaho State Forensic Laboratory, where the lab experts there were able to identify DNA on a Q-tip as coming from the father of the person whose DNA was found on the knife sheath that was next to Madison Mogen's body in the bed. Subsequently, an arrest warrant was issued here in Idaho, and a search warrant was issued in the state of Pennsylvania with the assistance not only of the FBI, but the Pennsylvania State Police. Mr. Kohberger was arrested at his parents' home to return to Idaho. Upon his return to Idaho, a DNA sample was taken from him, and it matched the DNA found on the knife sheath next to Maddie's body at the crime scene. I can tell the court and the public, the weapon itself, the knife, has not yet been recovered. I can tell the court that the defendant's apartment in Pullman was searched, as well as his office. Spartan would be a kind characterization. There was virtually nothing there. Nothing of evidentiary value was found. And of course, we're now talking 6-8 weeks after the time of the killings. In Pennsylvania, the defendant's car was seized, and it was actually pretty much disassembled internally. And it also had been cleaned. There was a bucket of cleaner right beside it. I think we can all look to our own cars, you know, in those compartments in the doors. We try to keep them clean where you put stuff. There's always some degree of crud in there. They were spotless. The defendant's car had been meticulously cleaned inside. And the state would present to the jury that that was part of the defendant's plan in covering up this. The defendant has studied crime. In fact, he did a detailed paper on crime scene processing when he was working on his pre-doctorate degrees, and he had that knowledge and skill. So, Your Honor, at the end, the state submits that the evidence that I've given just a quick overview of, and that to present in court would consume weeks, which the state is prepared to do and has been prepared to do, would show that as the defendant has just admitted and pleaded guilty on November 13th, 2022, excuse me, Mr. Kohberger entered the residence of 1122 King Road in Moscow, Idaho. He did that with the intent to kill. We will not represent that he intended to commit all of the murders that he did that night, but we know that that is what resulted, and that he then killed intentionally, willfully, deliberately, with premeditation, and with malice forethought, Maddie Mogen, Kiely Gonzalez, Ethan Chapin, and Santa Cruz. Thank you.
Thank you.
Did Bill act like he was
Based on
crying?
the state's proffer, and importantly, based upon defendant's explicit admission to committing these crimes, the court finds there is a factual basis. Therefore, with respect to count 1, burglary, felony, how do you plead, Mr. Kohberger, guilty or not guilty?
Guilty.
As to count 2, murder in the first degree, as it relates to the murder of Madison Mogan, how do you plead, guilty or not guilty?
Guilty.
As to count 3, as it relates to murder in the first degree for the murder of Kiely Gonzalez, how do you plead, guilty or not guilty?
Guilty.
As to count 4, the first degree murder of Xana Kernodle, a human being, how do you plead, guilty or not guilty?
Guilty.
As to count 5, the first degree murder of Ethan Chapin, a human being, how do you plead, guilty or not guilty?
Guilty.
Right. The court will find that the defendant understands the nature of the charges and each offense and the possible consequences to him of his guilty plea. Court finds that there is a factual basis for the plea and that finds the defendant believes the plea to be in his best interest. I find that the plea was given freely, voluntarily, and was intelligently made. I accept the plea. I direct that it be entered. I'll continue the matter for sentencing in this case. I think it was mentioned on the call Monday afternoon, the defense wishes to waive a pretrial investigation. Is that accurate?
Yes, Your Honor.
The state also?
Yes, Your Honor, the state does not believe pre-sentence investigation is needed, given the evidence that is available. We want to, though, make sure that all of the victims have the opportunity to make statements to the court at sentencing.
Absolutely. And certainly both the state and the defense may present whatever sentencing memorandum and other documents you wish me to consider. The victims will be given an opportunity to provide the statements that they wish to at sentencing. Do we need more than 1 full day for sentencing?
I do not believe so, Your Honor. We have numerous victims, and we have victims who share unique perspectives on this, and we want to make sure that they all have time to express their feelings to the court. But I believe that if we can start perhaps 8:30 or so in the morning, that we should be able to complete it all in one day.
Defense agree with that in terms of the time frame?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right. So as it happens, we have some time reserved in this case in July and August. The week of July 22nd is available. I don't know if that's too soon for the parties or the next week, the week of August 4 is available. Any preference?
Your Honor, we're prepared as soon as the court wants to schedule it.
The state, I believe, would be prepared on the 22nd. We've told the victims' families that we're looking at approximately those dates.
All right. So because of the plan to bring in so many jurors to fill out questionnaires, I had ordered that no other trials could take place in this courthouse the week of July 22nd. And so we will use that in terms of the sentencing date because of what I'm sure will be the significant interest of the media and the public and the logistics that will be required to make that happen. Without trials going, it'll be a lot easier to do that. So let's pick that week. Why don't we pick July 23rd with the idea that if for some reason we don't finish, we could continue into the 24th. We'll start at 9 in the morning. Does that give your team enough time, Sandra? 9 in the morning? All right. Any concerns with that date?
No, Your Honor. Thank you.
No, sir.
All right. Any reason why I should not rescind the non-dissemination order at this time?
You're right. I think that given the history of this case, it would be best if that remained in place through sentencing. So we have time to make sure there's the ability to completely answer questions. That would be the state's preference and recommendation.
We'd have no objection for the order to remain in place through
All right.
sentencing.
I will, at this point, the idea to keep it until sentencing, which time it would be withdrawn. in order to give the parties the space and time to prepare to meet what I'm sure will be the deluge of media requests. That's at least my preliminary decision at this point. We can always revisit if it seems to be, for some reason, I should. That said, obviously, I don't think the defendant, a bond was ever set for the defendant. Were it would be revoked. The prior order allowing him to come in civilian clothes is revoked, given his plea and no longer the presumption of innocence. And in fact, now the actual conviction for the crimes. He will continue to be held at the jail pending sentencing. Is there anything else today?
No, Your Honor. Thank you.
I assume that the trial date will be vacated
trial
and those
is-
4 jurors will be released.
The trial will be vacated, and I'm sure that the jury commissioner will get word to those that receive their summons that they won't be required to attend. So
Thank you, Your Honor.
that said, again, if you would all please wait for the parties and the victims' families and others to leave the courtroom before you do, I would appreciate it. And with that, we're adjourned. All right, please.
All right, ladies and gents, let's give a round of applause to Lady Justice. You probably don't expect me to do this, but we're gonna give a round of applause to Lady Justice. Justice has been served. That'll be the conclusion of the Idaho 4 Bryan Kohberger case. Trial has been adjourned. Trial is being vacated. Ladies and gentlemen, a round of applause for Lady Justice. Justice has spoken, and that's the justice that the victims get. We did our best to make sure the public is informed of our side of things in the way we investigated this case, all the holes, all the craziness about this case. Losing our very first channel for the Idaho 4 case. That's the thing that I regret the most. You know, putting all the eggs in one basket and making sure that we do a job well done. Be the first one letting y'all know what's going on in the case. But Lady Justice has spoken. I would like to say that from my part and my staff, our sources, big shout out to Amy Conway, big shout out to all our moderators that we spend hours upon hours having conversation about the Idaho 4 Bryan Kohberger case and talking about everything that was out there in the public information. I'm very happy for the job that we did. I very much appreciate everyone that follow us through tough times in the Idaho 4 Bryan Kohberger case. I think if you ask me, it's a conclusion and finality, and this will seal the deal and kaput. Finito. Lady Justice has spoken. We're gonna be live for a little longer. I want to talk about that Sean Diddy Khan found not guilty of the RICO charges. It's a very good feeling when in one day 2 cases that you was paying attention to are resolved. If you ask me, in my personal opinion, it's a great feeling to have a resolution for the Idaho 4, having a resolution for a Diddy case. I really want to share with y'all real quick. My earlier take on the P. Diddy trial, because I seen it come. I seen it happening. I seen it coming. Pause. No Diddy. Let me see real quick.
Agree with what you said?
Reach out to Stino.
I'll let you go. Before you go, but confirm, get out. Just schedule what you think is active gang
Member, I believe it's taken back. Yeah.
Watch on the rewatch. Shout out to Tisa Tells. We're gonna and I was not expecting on the rewatch. All right, let's pay attention to my assessment about the expectation and what to expect on the Diddy trial. I want to share with y'all for those that didn't catch the live stream. I want to share with y'all what was our expectations on the P. Diddy trial. Big shout out to Tisa Tells. It hit different. Big shout out to Tisa. Thank you so much. Let's see what Jrod Point said about the Diddy trial. Again, this was not planned, so again, I was not expecting no one to be here. Big shout out to Tisa Tells. We're gonna talk about the P. Diddy trial. What the expectations? What the expectations on the sentencing? Well, for what I have seen in this trial, they did prove you know, the substance, you know, purchasing substances and stuff like that, transporting those substances that they purchase, you know, around across the state lines and stuff like that. You know, it seems utilizing enterprise legal money to purchase drugs and stuff like that, prostitutes and all these other exchange of money or whatnot. I totally understand that the state dropped. I heard the state charges or whatnot. It was like more looking to the you know the Kid Cudi. By the way, Diddy was found innocent of all that stuff. He was found innocent on the RICO charges, all the other stuff. From I think it was 5 charges. They only find him guilty on I think the sex trafficking stuff. We're gonna watch a little headline. We're gonna watch the conclusion of the Diddy trial. But again, let's continue with my opinion, because they found him innocent. Because in my opinion, the state did prove those things. But also, I was expecting the results. Let's continue. The kidnapping and stuff like that. So, in my opinion, looking at everything overall after the dismissed charges and all overall, I believe that Diddy is a good chance, and I'm gonna give you a 45% chance. It's a 45% chance that Diddy's found innocent. Bam, 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 boom. Y'all listening to Jrod on Point. Big shout outs. It hit different. I'm gonna tell you right now, don't be surprised if that 45% of Diddy found innocent. The chances and possibilities are there. We could talk about later why, the reasons why or what, and I just want to give you what to expect. And actually, we're gonna be talking about it. We're gonna have a final live stream tonight. Tonight later on, we're gonna have a final live stream because I'm gonna tell you right now, I'm not gonna wait into sentencing and none of that other stuff. Like it's done deal. It's a done deal with the Idaho 4 Bryan Kohberger case. We moving on in this channel. We're moving on to the next. We're gonna have more conversations about some other cases. We're gonna go back to the Kiely Rodni case. We're gonna explore the Kiely Rodni case. The Kiely Rodni case got affected by the Idaho 4 content. Big shout out to you, Ann. Thank you so much for being here. I appreciate it. Thank you for being here. Big shout out to Amy Conway. Bill Thompson still saying they were slipping. Yeah, for sure. It was a lot of things in the way that he explained everything that it was going on. It was really not making no sense. And as he was explaining how everything went down, you could see the holes on the whole thing. And what could be argued in court on Bryan Kohberger's favor. But again, Lady Justice has spoken, though. Lady Justice has spoken, and we have to agree. And I repeat, we have to agree with Lady Justice. Right or wrong, it don't matter. It don't matter what we think. It don't matter what we say. It don't matter how we looked at it. It don't matter what's our theories. It don't matter anything that we have spoken for the past 3 years. It does not matter at all whatsoever. Because the only thing that it matters right now is that justice has spoken. And the only thing that we hope and pray is that the families of the victims are happy and content with the results. Because at the end of the day, they are the ones that has to live with it. At the end of the day, they are the ones that has to be either happy or mad with the results. Let's continue with the Diddy trial. That's my opinion on what to expect on the Diddy trial. %45% he could be free. We will talk. And I said it. This live stream was when? 2 days ago? 2 days ago, I said. 2 days ago, I said that it was a 45% that Diddy would have found innocent. And it came out today that he was found not guilty on the main charges, like the heavy charges, which we seen it happening. We also see happen Diddy at the end of the day in sentencing. We see him going in probation, ankle bracelet, and right back home with all his money safe. We seen that happening too, and it happened. So I guess we had a great assessment on the Kiely Rodni case, great assessment in the Idaho full Bryan Kohberger case, and great assessment on the Diddy trial. I gotta say that's pretty amazing for a small content creator. About the reasons why later. The other 55%, they could found him guilty, given time served, slap on the wrist, probation, ankle bracelet, right back home. And both things that I seen happening, both things happen. Diddy not found guilty and found guilty with probation, slap on the wrist, sent right back home. Both things we seen it happening 2 days ago, and today it happens. Big shout out to Jrod on Point. Big shout out to you, the On Point family that are subscribed to Jrod on Point. I appreciate you. It hit different. So that was that from Jrod on Point. My hot takes about the P. Diddy trial. That's what it is. 45%, he's gonna be free, scotch free. Just because the intricacies of the trial, just how the trial was presented and how those charges was dismissed with the motion for the judge to dismiss. That motion was backed up by the state dropping some charges. So again, don't be surprised if Diddy is found innocent of all charges. 45% of chances of that, and the other 55% he's found guilty. Slap on the wrist, time served, probation, Diddy right back home right away. And we seen it happening 2 days ago. Big shout out to Jrod on Point. So big shout out to everyone that was watching. Listen, meet me in the chat. We're gonna be on the I think preview. That was it. Yep. That was it. I gotta say that was a good showing though. I gotta say that was a, like, if you ask me, to the 100%, like, if we're going to assess our performance, if we're gonna assess our performance on the Kiely Rodni case, A+, in the Idaho full Bryan Kohberger case, A+, Diddy trial, A+, Karen Reed, A+. So if you ask me, our record is intact. We have brought the best information available in YouTube True Crime. We are very proud of what we have accomplished as content creators and cyber sleuth. We're very happy with Lady Justice. Very happy with Lady Justice. Let's listen to this. Let's listen to this real quick.
what you said, Jen, where it's silent, but and they might not say anything, but they won't be pictured with him. I don't think we're going to be seeing them attending events with him,
associating with him in really any way,
even on social media in any way. They don't want to be affiliated with that right now.
And this is a man who has, I mean, he is an entrepreneur.
Yes, an empire.
That's right. Many businesses that have grown substantially. Now you wonder what's going to happen to those businesses. At the very least, music-wise, he might be done.
It's crazy how legacy media made it look like Diddy was found guilty of 2 out of 5, but they don't want to say Diddy found not guilty on RICO charges, but guilty on lower charges. Like the legacy media still want to make it look like, you know, Diddy the bad guy. You know what I mean? Talk to the bad guy, man. You know what I'm saying?
Right, but he does still have his businesses in place.
Absolutely, which is how he was able to afford his legal team.
That's right.
The deep pockets there. And I know someone else who's been following this trial very closely, our friend Headcrack from Dish Nation. Thank you so much for joining us. My friend, were you surprised this morning when that verdict came in?
I was surprised, but there was also a part of me that felt like a few weeks back that I felt like he was going to walk, but it's been such a high wire act because, you know, they're the things that we knew that, you know, was going to come up in this court case that didn't really necessarily get leaned into too much. And I thought it was some of those things that was going to, like, you know, create a stickier case for him, but they really focused.
They're really about nothing. What are they talking about the case? But ladies and gents, if you ask me, we have accomplished our mission. I want to wish Amy Conway happy belated birthday. Lady Justice has spoken. I think we did a great job covering the Idaho 4 Bryan Kohberger case. It's a done deal about that. Again, I'm not gonna wait for sentencing, and you know, we might talk a little bit or whatnot, highlight something, but I think that either tonight, I don't know, either tonight or tomorrow, baby crying. I think it's time for daddy to go. Gonna check on my babies and make sure everybody's okay. She wilding out. But big shout out to everyone. Thank you so much for coming and watch with us. We watch history in the making. Big shout out to everyone. Big shout out to Amy Conway. And I'm gonna talk to you tonight. If not tonight, tomorrow night. Big shout out to everyone. And I'm going to be a dad. Let me go and see my kids. Big shout out. It's different. Listen, believe in yourself because I believe in you. If I did it, you could do it too. I ain't nothing special. I believe that y'all gonna take the best decisions in your life for yourself and for everyone around you. Love yourself, take care of yourself, so you be able to love and take care of others. Mwah. I love ya. It's my time to be a daddy. See ya later.